Okay, imagine this. A local writer's hub, right? And it's managed to get over 180 books out into the world,
Yeah.
just from its own efforts.
Wow. That's quite something.
It really is a testament to the stories just, well, brewing in the city. Or how about this? That rhyme scheme, the one we all learned as kids. The Limerick.
Yes, the five-liner.
Exactly. Well, it seems its roots trace back to a very specific part of Ireland. And that's where it gets interesting, because today on the Deep Dive, we are immersing ourselves in Limerick's literary culture.
Yeah.
It's really vibrant.
Absolutely. And we've gathered some fascinating sources to really explore this. We're looking at info straight from the Limerick Writers Center website.
Okay.
An article that really details the city's poets, and also some perspectives from Poetry Ireland in limerick.ie.
So a few different angles.
Exactly. It gives you this kind of multi-layered view of what's clearly a very dynamic scene.
Right. So whether you're, say, already deep into Irish literature, or maybe you're just curious about how these community arts places actually work.
Or maybe you just enjoy uncovering a good cultural story.
Precisely. This deep dive is designed for you. Our aim, really, is to distill the essence of Limerick's literary spirit, give you the key insights without, getting lost in the weeds.
Sounds good.
So with such an active hub, it feels like the best place to start is the Limerick Writers Center itself. Understand its role.
Makes sense. Okay, so it was established back in 2008, and its core mission really is pretty clear: championing and elevating writers, both from Limerick itself and, further afield.
And what struck me was the scale of their impact,
Yeah.
especially considering it's driven by a voluntary board.
Right. That says a lot, doesn't it, about the passion that's really fueling the art scene there?
It really does. And it's obviously not just for writers who are already well known.
No, not at all.
What caught my eye was that commitment to finding and nurturing new voices, people who maybe haven't been published before. And, as I mentioned, over 180 books published since they started.
Yeah, it's an incredible number. It really shows that grassroots impact.
Yeah.
And the range of things they do is pretty broad, too. They organize readings. I saw their old On the Nail event is now the First Wednesday series. Looks like a poetry-focused collaboration with Lime Square poets.
Ooh, interesting evolution.
Yeah, and they run all sorts of workshops. Poetry, short stories, script writing. They even bring in literary agents to give talks.
So it's like a whole ecosystem for writers then.
It really feels that way, a comprehensive support system.
Yeah, like a central hub for the literary community. And I thought their ethos was really important too, that focus on being inclusive. Amplifying diverse voices, genuinely supporting people from, well, all walks of life who have a story or a poem inside them, maybe even if they lack confidence or formal training.
Exactly. And they have a community publishing initiative as well. Imagine that opportunity for someone just starting out.
That must be huge.
Yeah.
Seeing your work actually become a book.
Incredibly empowering, I think. And it also points to that supportive community feel. Like, they used to have writers groups for peer feedback. They're paused now because of COVID, apparently, but it shows that dedication to collaboration.
A collaborative aspect is crucial, isn't it? And they've backed some really significant publications, too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, things like Kemi's Limerick Miscellany and also Louis Threach Angela. That's the Irish translation of Angela's Ashes.
Oh, wow. Frank Court's book. That's
Yeah.
culturally massive for Limerick.
Exactly. So the center acts as this vital incubator, providing that path from manuscript to published book, especially for local voices. You can see it in the range of things they publish.
They certainly seem deeply engaged. Projects like I Live in Michael Hartnett or The Curious Story of the Limerick, they really show that connection to local heritage and history.
It's a shame their Revival Literary Journal had to stop funding, it seems.
That's often the way. But it's good that Revival Press, their poetry imprint, is still going strong.
Right, along with the main Limerick Writers Center publishing for, fiction, memoir, history. Those avenues are still open.
Which is the important thing.
And they keep things lively with events, too, like the annual poetry festival they've run every April since 2013.
Oh, nice. A fixture, then.
Yeah, and that brilliant Bring Your Limericks to Limerick competition. I love the name.
That's great. It shows both sides, doesn't it? The serious poetry and the playful side of language.
Totally.
And the move, too, to 78 O'Connell Street in January 2021. That suggests growth, staying power.
Yeah. And the sources mentioned the current board, Fiona Clark Eklund, Jim Burke, Tommy Collins, and the founders, too. It highlights that continued dedication over the years.
It's interesting. They also host the Acoustic Club for musicians and songwriters.
I saw that. It suggests they see creativity as, well, interconnected,
Yeah.
building a broader artistic community.
Yeah, not just siloed literature.
And we can't forget the Desmond O'Grady International Poetry Competition and the memorial reading. That's a direct link, isn't it, between what they do now and a major figure from Limerick's poetic past?
Absolutely. Which kind of leads us perfectly into talking about that rich poetic heritage itself.
It does. Because Limerick really does have this long, impressive reputation in arts and culture. The Writers' Center site itself mentions huge names with Limerick connections.
Like Frank McCourt, obviously.
McCourt, Kate O'Brien, Michael Curtin, Maeve Kelly, even contemporary prize winners like Kevin Barry and Donald Ryan.
Wow, it's quite a list already.
And that's before we even narrow it down to poetry specifically. That article, An Island of Scribes and Bards, really drives home the sheer talent. It highlights key Limerick poets like Michael Hartnett,
A giant.
Desmond O'Grady, we just mentioned, John Liddy, Kieran Belville.
And what's really compelling is that it's not just in English, is it? There's this deep Gaelic tradition, too.
Right, the Philinamai, the Mig poets.
Exactly. And figures like Siamas O Caindilbain, Aithne Strong. There's even a book mentioned, Fili Lumni Gan Iomra San Achtu Haijiag.
Poets of Limerick unsung in the 18th century.
Yeah. It just shows the historical depth of Irish language poetry there. And you've got connections to major figures in Gaelic verse, like Davy O. Bruder and Ciaráid Iarla in the county, too.
So it's this fascinating mix, this dialogue almost, between the two languages. You see it in Hartnett's work, and the legacy of those Meg poets.
Reflecting that complex linguistic history.
So that Scribes and Bards article then just sort of unfolds this incredible list of poets. It's almost overwhelming, the richness there.
It really is a remarkable roll call. Maybe we can just touch on a few to give listeners a flavor.
Good idea. Where to start?
Well, there's Michael Hogan, the Bard of Thomond from the 19th century, known for lays and legends of Thomond, but also sharp satire, apparently.
And he has a statue outside King John's Castle that speaks volumes locally.
It does. Then someone like Mare Bradshaw, connected to Bradshaw books, but she also wrote a presidential poem for Mary Robinson.
Wow, that's significant recognition.
And Mary Call, poet, playwright, broadcaster. Her plays were on at the Bell Table and Lime Tree Theatre in Limerick.
A versatile talent.
Definitely. And Tim Cunningham lives in Essex now, but the article says Limerick themes are strong in his poetry. He won the Kavanaugh Fellowship, too.
Prestigious award. And then, of course, Michael Hartnett looms large.
Absolutely. The article rightly flags his bilingualism, that exploration of the tension between English and Irish.
His connection to the landscape, his relationship with Yeats and influence.
Yeah, all of that. And the Eggs Michael Hartnett Festival in Newcastle West really cements his legacy.
It does. And there are poets with international profiles, too.
Right, like Tom Hennihan moved to Canada, became poetry editor there, or Ger Killeen won the Blue Stem Award, now lives in Oregon.
Shows the reach of these Limerick voices.
And it's pretty amazing that the current president of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, born in Limerick, is a published poet himself.
Really is. Shows that deep connection to the written word runs right to the top.
Then there's May Leonard, known for RTE's Sunday Miscellany. Lots of awards, collections rooted in Limerick.
And John Liddy, founding editor of the Stony Thursday book, which is a really important journal.
Crucial figure. And Catherine Phil McCarthy grew up in Kiln, Limerick, former editor of Poetry Ireland Review, lots of acclaim.
The list just keeps going. May Reid met Terry Murray, who lived in Limerick, wrote plays about its history. Sharon O'Driscoll, living there now, involved in the Queensville Festival.
And Desmond O'Grady, again described as maybe the most international Irish poet of the 20th century, apart from Yeats, lived abroad, taught, translated, a huge figure. The competition named after him makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. And Joe Slade, both a painter and a poet, Mark Whelan, key in starting that Queensville Festival. It's just an incredible concentration of talent.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it about Limerick that fostered this environment over centuries?
That's a great question. And you can't really talk about Limerick's literary side without, well, talking about the Limerick itself.
Ah, yes. The famous five-line form. That Smithsonian Magazine piece we saw was interesting on its origins.
It was, tracing it back to Croom Village and those Meg poets again, back in the 18th century.
I loved the image of them gathering in inns and taverns for their poets' courts, school teachers, priests.
A lively social scene, using verse and wit.
And maybe a way to kind of celebrate and keep the Gaelic language alive when it was under pressure.
Seems likely. The article mentions John O'Tomey and Andrew McCraff as early Limerick writers. He even gives examples of their verses, often quite funny back and forths.
And it clears up that misconception about Edward Lear inventing it. He definitely made it popular worldwide with his illustrated books.
Oh, definitely.
But the form itself was already around. Apparently, the Oxford English Dictionary didn't define limerick until 1892, after Lear had died.
That's fascinating. And the Penguin Book of Limericks mentioned that early split between clean limericks and, well, the more obscene ones.
Seems it always had that slightly cheeky, playful spirit.
Totally. And I love that little story about the limerick from Croom being translated into Norwegian, becoming popular there, and then coming back to Ireland.
Shows the weird journeys these things can take, and its universal appeal somehow.
Yeah. And even though the source doesn't go deep into the metrics, it's that structure, isn't it? 5 lines, A, A, B, hey, rhyme. That rhythm, you just know it when you hear it.
Like that example they gave, as the natives got ready to serve a midget explorer named Merv.
"This meal will be brief," said the cannibal chief, "for this is at best an hors d'oeuvre."
Haha. Perfect example of the humor, the little twist at the end.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've looked at the history, the big names, the verse form itself. But what about right now? Is that literary energy still buzzing in Limerick today?
Oh, absolutely. It seems very much alive and kicking. The Writers' Center is clearly still central, as we discussed. And Poetry Ireland also mentions Write Pace. That's a writers' co-op in Limerick for peer mentoring.
So that grassroots support is still happening.
Very much so.
Hmm.
And the Munster Poetry Slam returning to Limerick, organized by the Writers' Center and Lime Square Poets, that's a great sign for the spoken word scene.
Yeah, and it being a qualifier for the All-Ireland Slam shows the level they're aiming for. The rules, too, memorized, original, time limits. It's all about the performance.
Definitely focuses on that dynamic delivery. And then there's the Poetry Circle series run by the Writers' Center to honor Desmond O'Grady. They've featured poets like Stanley Notte and Faye Boland.
I saw that. Not style using song titles sounds unique. And Boland's an award winner, so diverse voices being showcased.
Exactly. It shows that the tradition of live readings and celebrating contemporary poetry is still strong.
And finally, there's the Alghamstone. That's the University of Limerick's Literary and Arts Journal.
Right. And they're looking for submissions now for 2024 on the theme of recollection.
So another really important platform, especially for nurturing emerging writers and artists connected to the university and the region, keeps that pipeline of new talent flowing.
So looking back over everything, a few things really stand out, don't they?
What are your main takeaways?
Well, first, just the depth and persistence of Limerick's literary heritage, from those Gaelic poets centuries ago right up to today's writers.
Yeah, that continuity is striking.
And second, the absolutely vital role of organizations like the Limerick Writers' Center, really cultivating talent, keeping the scene dynamic.
Couldn't agree more.
And third, maybe the surprising historical weight behind something as seemingly simple as the Limerick verse form itself. It's deeply rooted there.
True. It's not just a bit of fun, it has history.
Exactly. And finally, just how vibrant the contemporary scene still is. It hasn't rested on its laurels.
No, definitely not. So this deep dive, it really gives you, the listener, a snapshot, doesn't it? A glimpse into a community that's just deeply engaged with words, stories, poems.
And understanding that local scene, I think, gives you a richer appreciation for Irish literary culture as a whole, and maybe the importance of community anywhere in fostering creativity.
Well said. So thinking about all this, the history, the present energy, it does leave you wondering, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, what stories, what poems might be bubbling up from Limerick right now that could shape how we see things in the future?
That's a fascinating thought. Or maybe, how does having such a strong, supported literary culture actually contribute to the identity, the feel, the vibrancy of the city itself?
Yeah, definitely something to ponder. Perhaps you, listening, might even be tempted to seek out some work by the writers we've mentioned.
Or even just check out what literary events are happening in your own local area. You might be surprised.